Making $40,000 a year and wondering if you're doomed to ramen noodles and hand-me-down furniture for the rest of your life? Well, here's something that might shock you. Some of the wealthiest people I know started with salaries that would make a fast food manager laugh. The difference wasn't their starting point, it was what they did with every dollar that came through their hands. My name is Nick, and I've spent way too much of my life obsessing over personal finance strategies and watching people transform their financial situations from absolutely nothing. If you're tired of living paycheck to paycheck and's actually a way out of that, wondering if they're a financial hamster wheel, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it ends up changing how you think about money. Now, before we dive into the specific strategies that can turn a $40,000 income into serious wealth building potential, let me destroy a myth that's probably been haunting you. Society loves to tell us that you need to earn six figures to build any meaningful wealth, that you need to be some Silicon Valley tech bro or Wall Street wizard to have financial security. It's complete garbage, and I'm gonna prove it to you today. The truth is, your income is just your starting material. What matters is your financial strategy, your discipline, and understanding exactly where every dollar needs to go to maximize your future wealth. I've seen people earning $200,000 who are completely broke, and I've watched folks making $40,000 systematically build impressive net worth through smart decision making. Here's what most people don't realize about earning $40,000 per year. After taxes, you're probably taking home around $2,700 per month. That might sound tight, and honestly, it is if you're doing things the way most people do them. But here's the thing that changes everything. When you have limited resources, you're forced to become incredibly strategic about money. And that strategic thinking becomes your superpower as your income grows. Think about it this way. The person earning $40,000 who learns to live on $35,000 and invest the difference is building wealth habits that will serve them for life. Meanwhile, the person earning $80,000 who spends $85,000 is training themselves to be perpetually broke, regardless of how much they earn. So, what does a killer financial strategy actually look like when you're working with $40,000 annually? It's not about depriving yourself or living like a monk. It's about being ruthlessly strategic with your priorities and understanding that every financial decision you make today is either moving you toward freedom or keeping you trapped. The first battleground in your financial war isn't your mortgage or your retirement savings, it's consumer debt. And this is where most people with modest incomes get absolutely destroyed. Credit card debt, buy now, pay later schemes, personal loans for things you didn't actually need. These financial vampires will suck your wealth building potential dry faster than you can imagine. Here's some math that'll make you sick. Let's say you're carrying $3,000 in credit card debt at 20% interest and you're making minimum payments. That debt will take you over 30 years to pay off, and you'll end up paying more than $10,000 total. $10,000 that could have been invested and grown into serious money over time. Even worse, that $100 per month you're paying in credit card interest is money that's gone forever. It's not building equity, it's not generating returns, it's just enriching some credit card company while keeping you stuck in the financial penalty box. When you're working with a limited income, you literally cannot afford to have money flowing out of your budget toward high interest debt. This is why eliminating consumer debt isn't just a good idea, it's an emergency. Every month you carry high interest debt is another month you're falling behind financially. The goal should be to allocate 7 to 10% of your gross income specifically toward debt elimination. On $40,000 per year, that's roughly $300 per month dedicated to destroying debt. Now, I know what you're thinking. You always, Nick, where am I supposed to find $300 per month when I'm already stretched thin? Fair question. And this is where we separate the people who actually want to build wealth from those who just want to complain about their situation. Finding that extra money requires you to audit every dollar you spend and make some uncomfortable decisions about what's actually necessary versus what you've been telling yourself you deserve. The average American household spends over $600 per month on food. $600, that includes groceries and dining out, but let's be honest, a huge chunk of that is convenience food, restaurant meals, and impulse purchases at the grocery store. If you could cut that by just 25% through meal planning and cooking at home, you'd free up $150 monthly right there. Transportation is another area where people with modest incomes often make wealth destroying decisions. The average car payment in America is over $700 per month for something that loses value the moment you drive it off the lot. If you're making $40,000 annually and you have a car payment that high, you're essentially volunteering to stay broke. Here's a reality check that might sting a little. That shiny car you think you deserve is actually the reason you can't build wealth. The reliable used vehicle that costs half as much would get you to work just as effectively while freeing up hundreds of dollars per month for debt, elimination, and wealth building. Your ego might prefer the newer car, but your future self will thank you for choosing financial progress over appearances. But debt elimination is just the foundation. Once you've cleared your high interest debt, you're ready to build what I call your financial fortress. This is where your money starts working for you instead of against you, and it's the point where your $40,000 income begins generating real wealth building power. The first piece of your financial fortress is an emergency fund, and this is where most people get the strategy completely wrong. They either skip it entirely because it seems boring, or they obsess over having some massive emergency fund while ignoring other wealth building opportunities. Both approaches will keep you financially mediocre. With your emergency fund, you need exactly 3 months of expenses saved, not 3 years. If your monthly expenses are $2,000, then $6,000 in emergency savings is plenty. More than that, and you're just letting inflation slowly eat away at money that could be generating real returns elsewhere. Here's why this matters more than most people realize. That emergency fund isn't just about covering unexpected expenses, it's about giving you the confidence to take calculated risks that can accelerate your wealth building. When you know you've got 3 months of breathing room, you can negotiate harder for raises, switch to better paying jobs, or even start a side business without the crushing fear of financial ruin. But here's where it gets interesting. Once you've got that emergency fund locked and loaded, every additional dollar you save should be going toward building actual wealth, not sitting in some savings account earning practically nothing. This is where the Roth IRA becomes your secret weapon, and honestly, it's one of the most underrated wealth building tools for people in your income bracket. With a $40,000 salary, you're likely in the 12% tax bracket, which means you're not paying much in taxes anyway. The Roth IRA lets you contribute up to $7,000 annually with after-tax money, and then every penny of growth is completely tax-free when you withdraw it in retirement. Think about that for a second. You could potentially have hundreds of thousands of dollars growing tax-free for decades, but here's the beautiful part that most people miss. You can withdraw your contributions from a Roth IRA at any time without penalties. So if you contribute $2,000 this year and next year you need that money for some reason, you can take out your original $2,000 without any tax consequences. It's like a supercharged savings account that also happens to be building your retirement wealth. Now, I know $7,000 per year sounds impossible when you're making $40,000, but let's break this down mathematically. $7,000 annually is about $580 per month. That's roughly 21% of your gross income, which admittedly is aggressive, but even if you can only manage half that amount, you're still building serious wealth over time. Let's say you contribute $3,000 annually to your Roth IRA starting at age 25. Assuming 8% returns, by age 65, you'd have over $800,000 completely tax-free. $800,000 from contributing just $3,000 per year. That's the power of starting early and letting compound interest work its magic. But here's where most people stumble, and it's something that'll either make you rich or keep you broke forever. They get their emergency fund set up, they start contributing to their Roth IRA, and then they think they're done. They pat themselves on the back for being financially responsible and go back to spending every remaining dollar they earn. That's not wealth building, that's just playing defense. If you want to actually get ahead, You need to focus on the one thing that can transform your entire financial trajectory faster than any investment strategy or savings hack. You need to increase your income. And I'm not talking about hoping for a 3% annual raise that barely keeps up with inflation. The harsh reality is that $40,000 per year is survival money in most parts of the country. It's enough to keep you fed and housed, but it's not enough to build substantial wealth quickly. You can optimize and strategize all you want, but at some point you hit a mathematical ceiling where there's simply not enough money to work with. This is where the side hustle conversation usually starts, and honestly, most people approach this completely wrong. They think about driving for rideshare companies or delivering food, which is fine for quick cash, but terrible for building long-term wealth. Those jobs pay you for your time, and your time is finite. You're essentially trading hours for dollars with no leverage whatsoever. Instead, you want to focus on monetizing skills you already have or can develop relatively quickly. Can you teach guitar lessons for $30 an hour? That's better than most part-time jobs, and you're building a skill-based business. Are you decent with computers? Basic web design or social media management can easily bring in $50 to $75 per hour once you build a small client base. The key is picking something that pays at least $20 to $30 per hour and has the potential to grow beyond just trading time for money. Maybe you start by tutoring high school math for $25 an hour, but eventually you create an online course that generates passive income. Or you begin with basic bookkeeping for small businesses and eventually build an accounting service. Here's something most people don't consider, but it's absolutely crucial if you're serious about building wealth on a modest income. Yeah, you need to be strategic about increasing your primary income, not just adding side income. That $40,000 salary should be viewed as temporary, not permanent. This might mean getting certifications in your current field that can bump you up to $55,000 or $60,000. If you're in logistics, becoming a certified fleet manager could increase your salary by $15,000 to $20,000 annually. In healthcare, additional certifications can often lead to significant pay increases. In tech, even basic coding skills can open doors to much higher paying positions. The beautiful thing about pursuing income growth is that it compounds with everything else we've discussed. Instead of trying to squeeze wealth building out of $40,000, imagine implementing these same strategies with $60,000 or $70,000 in annual income. Suddenly that aggressive Roth IRA contribution becomes much more manageable, and you have real money left over for additional investing. But here's where I see people sabotage themselves constantly, and it's probably the biggest wealth killer for people in your income bracket. As soon as they start earning more money, they immediately start spending more money. They move to a more expensive apartment, buy a newer car, start eating out more frequently. Their expenses rise to meet their income, which means they never actually get ahead financially. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it's absolutely devastating to wealth building. The person who learns to live on $35,000 while earning $40,000 should continue living on $35,000 when they're earning $60,000. That extra $25,000 should go straight toward wealth building, not upgrading their lifestyle. I know this sounds boring or restrictive, but here's the thing. Most people don't realize true financial freedom comes from having options, not from having stuff. The person with substantial savings and investments has choices that simply don't exist for people living paycheck to paycheck. They can take career risks, start businesses, or even take breaks from working without facing financial catastrophe. Meanwhile, the person stuck in the paycheck to paycheck cycle is constantly stressed about money, making decisions from a place of scarcity rather than abundance. They can strength because they negotiate from innately need every paycheck. They can't invest in their education or skills because there's no buffer for the short-term income loss. They're trapped in what I call the broke person's paradox, where they can't afford to make the investments that would actually improve their situation. This is why your $40,000 income strategy isn't just about managing the money you have now. It's about systematically building the foundation that allows you to earn more, save more, and eventually break free from financial anxiety altogether. Every dollar you save, every debt you eliminate, Every skill you develop is creating more options for your future self. Let's talk about the psychology of this for a minute, because understanding your own brain is crucial to making this work. When you're earning a modest income, every financial decision feels urgent and overwhelming. You're constantly choosing between competing priorities, and it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking short term instead of long term. Here's what I mean. You get a tax refund of $1,500, and your brain immediately starts cataloging all the things you could buy with that money. New clothes, a weekend getaway, maybe some electronics you've been wanting. All of these feel important in the moment, but none of them move you closer to financial freedom. The wealthy mindset approaches that same $1,500 completely differently. They see it as an opportunity to eliminate debt, boost their emergency fund, or make a significant contribution to their investment accounts. They understand that $1,500 invested wisely today could be worth $10,000 or more in 20 years. This shift from consumer thinking to investor thinking is probably the most important mental change you can make. Instead of asking yourself what you can buy with your money, start asking what you can build with it. That fundamental difference in perspective separates people who accumulate wealth from people who accumulate stuff. Now, let's get specific about how to optimize your situation when you're working with limited resources. Housing is going to be your biggest expense, probably eating up 30 to 40% of your take-home pay. This is where most people make decisions that keep them financially stuck forever. The conventional wisdom says you should spend no more than 30% of your gross income on housing, which would be about $1,000 monthly on a $40,000 salary. But here's the thing about conventional wisdom. It's designed to keep you conventionally broke. If you want unconventional results, you need unconventional strategies. Instead of maxing out your housing budget, what if you could get that number down to $600 or $700 per month? Suddenly, you've freed up $300 to $400 monthly that can be redirected toward debt elimination and wealth building. That's $4,800 annually that could be working for your future instead of just keeping you housed. This might mean getting a roommate, living in a less trendy neighborhood, or choosing a smaller place than you think you deserve. Your ego might not love these choices, but your bank account will thank you. Remember, we're playing a long-term game here, and temporary lifestyle adjustments can create permanent financial improvements. Transportation is another area where smart choices can free up serious money. I mentioned earlier how devastating car payments can be to your wealth building, but let me give you a specific example that'll make this crystal clear. Let's say you finance a $25,000 car with a typical loan. You're probably looking at payments around $450 per month for 5 or 6 years. Over the life of that loan, you'll pay roughly $30,000 for a car that's worth maybe $10,000 when you're done paying for it. Meanwhile, that same $450 invested monthly at 8% returns would grow to over $40,000 in 6 years. So you're not just spending $25,000 on the car, you're actually giving up $40,000 in potential wealth building. Compare that to buying a reliable used car for $8,000 in cash. Same transportation function, but you've just saved yourself $32,000 in opportunity cost. That's the difference between thinking like a consumer and thinking like a wealth builder. But here's where people usually push back on this advice. They worry about maintenance costs and reliability with older vehicles. Fair concern, but let's do the math. Even if you spend $2,000 annually on maintenance and repairs for that older car, you're still way ahead financially compared to the person making car payments. Plus, there's something psychologically powerful about owning your vehicle outright. No monthly payment hanging over your head, no gap insurance to worry about, no stress about negative equity if something happens to the car. That peace of mind is worth something too. Food is the next area where strategic choices can dramatically impact your financial trajectory. $600 monthly on food might be average, but average people are broke. If you can get that number down to $400 through meal planning and strategic shopping, you've just found another $200 monthly for wealth building. Looking at all of this, your $40,000 income isn't a life sentence of financial mediocrity. It's your starting point, and what you do with every dollar from here determines whether you'll still be stressed about money in 10 years or looking back grateful that you made the hard choices when they mattered most. Eliminate that debt, build your emergency fund, maximize that Roth IRA, and relentlessly focus on increasing your income. The person earning $40,000 who masters these fundamentals will build more wealth than someone earning twice as much who never learned to be strategic with money. Your future self is counting on the decisions you make today, so make them count.